Hey, what's up, guys? Shane here with Genesis Offroad. Welcome back to the Genesis Offroad podcast, where here on this show, we're going to be taking a deeper look at your questions that you guys are sending in to us. So this place just gives us an opportunity to expand on the answers to some of your questions more than what we can do over email or even over the phone. So with us again today, we've got Mr. Brad Chester here to bring us the Q's, and I'll give you the A's. So Brad, for everybody watching, how do they get their questions answered here on our show?
All right, the best way is to comment down below. We watch all of those comments and try to comment back, but we would love to give you a more firm answer here in the show. Emailing us at info@genesisoffroad.com is another great way to do it, or give us a call. Mike will answer your question on the phone and then also pass that question to us. So those are the ways.
Sounds good, man. So what do we got this week?
All right, so a couple comments that we've gotten over the past month or so is talking about upgrading our systems. So I know you say we make them so that they're easy to upgrade.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that? You know, this person was talking about upgrading from their old system. They're going to have to purchase the whole new kit. That's not the truth. So why don't you explain how that works?
Yeah, so I think we're talking about upgrading from one of our earlier generations to the new Gen 3 Power Hub.
Yeah.
Or we've even had people wanting to swap from the Gen 3 system over to the new Omega system to run lithium batteries. So for the folks that have been following along, we've actually got 5 different options for auxiliary power in a JL and the JT, specifically for those vehicles, right? And we did a detailed video on all those different options here recently, so you can go see those. But for all the other ones, you know, if you're wanting to swap from an earlier Gen 1, Gen 2 kit up to the new Gen 3, it's as simple as it can possibly be, because all the generations of our systems use the same battery tray. So the part that's you already got put in there in the vehicle to hold the 2 batteries in place, all the installation hardware, all that stuff stays in there. You're just going to take the top part that holds the batteries down, take that top lid off, we call it the lid. The Gen 3 system we call the Power Hub. When you take the old Gen 1, Gen 2 lid off and put the Power Hub on there, the wires are going to line right up with the battery posts. So aside from maybe you need to reroute some of your accessory wires that went to the bus bars. We've got the new heavy duty bus bars on the Gen 3 system. You might need to do a little bit of combing and reorganizing of your accessory wires to get them connected to the new bus bars. But other than that, that's as easy as it is. That's all there is to it. You're just going to take the top lid off and put the new one on there. Same thing for the Omega system. If you want to swap from the Gen 3 or one of our earlier systems, again, you've got the tray in there. You're going to take the top piece off, put the Omega lid on, and then you're going to mount the charger on its bracket next to the batteries. And the charger plugs in with a single cable, right? So that's all there is to it. So we made it as easy as possible. Everything is made to be modular and works together, so you can swap from one system to the other real easily.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the whole goal that we want. We always want to make the install easy. Mm-hmm. And so getting that tray in there is the quote unquote hard part of the install. And so once that's in place, then swapping or upgrading is really not that hard, other than hooking up your accessories. That's probably the hardest part.
Yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Didn't Mike just say that he had a customer wanting to upgrade their Jeep? I can't remember what system they had, but he was wanting to upgrade to like the replacement lid from one of the other lids.
Yeah, the replacement kit. Yeah, we were just talking to Mike about that the other day. Somebody called in and said, I think the scenario was they wanted to just kind of roll it out in phases. You know, they're like, it's kind of a little bit expensive. We talked about that on the last episode, right?
Right.
So they wanted to kind of roll it out in phases. They wanted to get the tray in there with a couple of the Group 25 batteries, but they didn't want to spend the money on the Power Hub just yet. So that's an easy option too. You can certainly do that. You can put the replacement kit, the stock battery replacement kit, in the JL or the JT, and that uses 2 full-size batteries, but it leaves the wiring 100% stock, but it just gives you a full-sized ESS battery instead of that tiny little motorcycle battery. And then in the future, again, if you wanted to upgrade to the Gen 3 Power Hub, or if you wanted to upgrade to the Omega system, you would just take that lid off and put the other one on top of there. And that's all there is to it. So with all of our different options for the JL and the JT, whether it's the stock battery relocation kit or the replacement kit or the Gen 3 system or the Omega system, they're all using the same battery tray. So like you said, the hard part is wiggling out that big bulky plastic battery tray, getting that out of there. But then our new steel tray drops down in its place a whole lot easier. So once you get that in there and holding the batteries, you can switch between any of those systems real easily.
Yeah. Now, is there a reason that they can't use the replacement lid in like a Toyota?
Yeah, it's just a different purpose, right? So the replacement kit is designed specifically to replace the little ESS start-stop battery that's buried underneath the fuse box on the JL and the Gladiator with a second full-size battery. And that's just to get rid of that little battery and give you 2 full-size batteries, but it keeps the ESS system and all the electronics 100% stock. So the other vehicles, most of the Toyota vehicles that we support just don't have that. They don't have that little auxiliary battery. So that's just not a use case for the Toyota guys.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right. So while we're on the subject of upgrading, let's talk about the G-Screen upgrade. First of all, who needs to upgrade their G-Screen, and why would you upgrade your G-Screen like when you get a new power hub? Why is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a great question that we've had a little bit of misunderstanding about. So in the past, we launched the G-Screen monitoring system back in 2014. And over the course of all these years, we've had, several firmware upgrades and some hardware changes to the G-Screen to keep making it better and adding some features to it. So if we just do bug fixes, software enhancements to the firmware, this sort of thing, those upgrades are completely free. So the customer can send the screen back to us and we will flash the firmware for them here and send it back to them so they have that extra functionality. Sometimes we add new functionality that requires a hardware change. Like, for example, in 2016, we added on the digital air pressure sensor option. So you can plug in an air pressure sensor and the G-Screen will operate like a pressure gauge, air pressure gauge. In that situation, the little interface module box needed a new port for plugging in that sensor. That's a hardware change. So I can't do a free upgrade for that. But whenever we have a hardware change like that, we try to keep that cost as low as we possibly can for the customer so they can get the most functionality out of the system. But again, when it's just software updates, which is usually bug fixes or little tweaks here and there that we do, those firmware updates are free. Now, if you're going from a Gen 1 or Gen 2 dual battery kit up to the Gen 3 Power Hub, the Gen 3 Power Hub has 100% new components inside it. It's a new smart battery isolator. It's a new boost switch. And all the wiring inside there is different. The way that it monitors the batteries, the way that it connects the batteries together, the way that it outputs its status to tell the system if the batteries are connected or if they're isolated is different. So if you have the Gen 1 or Gen 2 system and you want to upgrade to the Gen 3 Power Hub, you can order the Power Hub on our website by itself, right? It'll be listed when you go to shop by vehicle, you go to your vehicle and you find the right Power Hub for your vehicle. But also, if you already have the G-Screen, you're going to need to send the G-Screen back to us, okay? On the website, there's going to be a product called the G-Screen Upgrade. And right now, as of the time of this recording, that fee is $40. That fee of $40 covers the firmware upgrade, which the software is free, but the hardware change is a new interface module that reads the data, reads the information coming from the Gen 3 Power Hub so that it can tell when the batteries are connected and when they're separated. The way that it handles that status is a little bit different than the old systems. So that's a hardware change. So for the $40 gets you the new interface module, the firmware upgrade. We calibrate the two pieces together. The screen and the module have to be calibrated so that it reads accurately. And then we'll ship it back to you. So that's what that upgrade costs. Now, if you're switching from, a Gen 1 or Gen 2 kit over to the Omega system, the Omega system does not use the G-Screen at all. 100% incompatible. The Omega system is monitored through RedArc's Red Vision app on your smartphone. Really cool app. It shows you the voltage and the charging information, all that on a beautiful app from RedArc. So There's no G screen for the Omega systems, but yeah, if you want to go up to the power hub and you've already got a G screen, you need to send that back to us. Let us flash it, calibrate it, send it back to you.
Okay, so now let's talk about those people, because I know we have people that I feel like are procrastinators. I may be one of those, but there are people that have ordered the G screen upgrade that have yet to send us their G screen.
Yes.
What's happening with those people? Is their screen work? Is it dead? Is it, like, what do you say about that?
Yeah. So the original screen that you were using on your Gen 1 or Gen 2 kit, if you plug it into a Gen 3 power hub, it will show the main battery voltage and the aux battery voltage. But the boost feature, the way the boost feature works is different. The firmware handles that boost feature differently. So you're not going to be able to use that. On the original one, you would hold down the boost off screen for about a second and it would flip to boost on. And that in order to link the batteries together to jumpstart yourself, right? If your cranky battery is a little bit too low, that's how that one works. The new one for the Gen 3 system works a little differently. On the boost screen, when you hold that down for a couple of seconds, it enters a boost menu and you'll tap through a few options. You'll tap the screen to select automatic mode or boost on or boost off. So when you stop tapping and stop making selections for about a second or two, that's how it selects that option. So you hold the screen down, tap through to find, boost on, stop tapping, and it links the batteries together. At that point, it stays in that mode until you hold that screen down again, tap through to either boost off or go back to automatic mode, and it'll switch the mode, right? So if you plug an earlier G screen into the power hub, it's only going to show you the voltage levels, but you're not going to get that boost menu functionality. So we do have quite a lot of guys who have upgraded to the power hub and purchased the G screen upgrade functionality and haven't sent their G screen back to us yet. So guys, if that's you, if you've been procrastinating, please go ahead and stop what you're doing. Go pack up the G screen and the interface module, send it back to us. Let us get you all up to speed. You're already using the functionality of the Gen 3 Power Hub. Let's get your G screen upgraded as well. You've already paid for it. Let's get it done. But you're probably like me and just, I'll get to it next weekend, and then next weekend never comes.
Right. Well, we've all been there too. But yeah, like Shane said, you've already paid for it, so it's free. And you don't have that functionality of the boost feature that I know you're probably relying on. So send it to us, please.
Yeah, let's get that done.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it on the upgrade stuff. Now let's switch over, because we had briefly talked about the ESS system in the last video. Then we had a comment on that video. This guy commented, no one likes the ESS, which we talked about. And people definitely don't like seeing dash lights or warnings about the ESS after installing a dual battery system. What do you think this guy's talking about? Is there a dash light that comes on when you install our system?
No, of course not. So everybody's favorite topic, the ESS system, is probably one of the most common topics on some of the JL forums out there. Everybody hates that system. I say everybody. Almost everybody hates the ESS
99.9%.
But this guy is saying nobody likes to have lights on the dash after they install the dual battery system.
That's what he says, yeah.
Okay, first of all, there could be a number of reasons why you're getting a light on the dash right after you installed our system. All of those reasons would have to do with something is not right. Okay, just because you install the dual battery system does not mean you're going to get lights on the dash about the ESS system right after you install it. Okay, so it could be a number of things. First thing I would recommend is let Mike talk you through some testing, some things to check. But in general, again, Mike will talk you through it in more detail. But in general, the few things that you want to double check is make sure all 4 battery post clamps are tight. If any of the post clamps are loose just a little bit, it can affect that battery getting charged while you're driving. And that can lead to one or the other battery getting a little bit too low, and that'll trigger that light on the dash. If the battery just isn't charged, the easy thing is just charge it up. Just put a battery charger on there If your clamps are good, all your connections are correct, your fuse box is hooked up back up correctly, all the things are done correctly, you're not going to get lights on the dash right after you install it. So if you do, something is not quite right yet. So battery post lamps tight. Inside the fuse box, all the fuses and relays in the JL and the JT are notorious for being loose from the factory. So one thing you can do if you got any kind of electrical gremlins, including ESS issues, take the cover off the fuse box and just press every one of those fuses and relays down. You'll notice that they'll go down. Most of them will go down a little bit. If any of those fuses are a little bit loose, it can just lead to all sorts of bizarre symptoms. The other thing is there's multiple power connections inside the factory fuse box on the JL and the JT. There's 6 or 7 wires going into it. Make sure you got every one of those in the correct spot and tighten down all the way. The other thing to check is the positive wire, the positive lead that was on the little battery needs to come up top and connect to the positive post on the big battery. If that's left off, you're going to get ESS warning lights. Okay. Follow the instruction video. If you think you got everything right and still having issues, please call Mike.
So that's specifically after you install our kit, directly after that. Why don't you talk about the scenario of the 6 cycle limit, where the dash light would come on after those 6 cycles. What do customers need to know about that?
Yeah, right. The 6 cycle limit. Okay. This has to do with the way that the vehicle is watching the battery status when you are stopped at a red light. Okay. So to understand what this is all about, we first need to understand how the ES system works from the factory. Okay. You got to understand how it works by default. And then we'll talk about how our system handles that differently and why. Okay. So the way the ESS system works is when you pull up to a red light and you stop and the engine shuts down, the system will separate the 2 batteries, the little bitty battery under the fuse box and the big battery. They get separated while you're at the red light. So all your radio, your lights, your fans, everything like that, all the electronics run from that little battery. Then when you lift your foot off the brake and the engine restarts, the system will reconnect the batteries together while you're driving in order to charge that little battery, replace a little bit of power that was used while you were stopped, right? Okay, when it does that, when you are stopped at the red light and it separates the batteries, the JL and JT, they have diagnostics systems that are running in the background. It runs a check. It's expecting to see a voltage difference between those 2 batteries. So it expects that the voltage on the big battery and the voltage on the little battery will be slightly different. Okay, it's just a diagnostic check that it's looking for. Then when it starts back up, the batteries link back together and they're linked in parallel. So they should be virtually identical. The voltage should be virtually identical coming from the alternator going into them. That's how the system works. Okay. Now, when you put our dual battery system in there, we're handling when the batteries are connected and disconnected based on the voltage level, not based on the ignition being, not based on the vehicle being running or not. Okay. So it's slightly different. Okay. So now picture the scenario. You pull up to the red light, you stop, the engine shuts down. Our system, the power hub, still has the batteries linked together because while you're driving, the voltage is above 13.1 and the batteries are linked together. But when you stop, the batteries stay connected together until it sees the voltage drop below about 12.7 volts. So when the voltage drops below 12.7, that's when our system will separate the batteries. Now, usually you're stopped at a red light and just for a short time, the voltage probably isn't going to drop down that low because that's still pretty high. That's still pretty high. Fully charged AGM batteries are fully charged at 12.8 volts. Okay, so 12.7 is not much of a drop. Okay, so they're probably still going to be linked together. Now, we talked about the Jeep runs the diagnostics and it's expecting to see the voltage difference. Well, while our system has the batteries linked together, there's not going to be the voltage difference. Okay, so the vehicle's ESS system thinks that the batteries are stuck connected together and it's not able to separate them. Okay, so once you go through 6 stop-start cycles, 6 cycles of pulling up to red light, stopping, and then the engine recranks. After 6 cycles, when you restart, it will put a little light on the dash. It says, hey, check the stop start system, and it'll disable the ESS system. It won't shut down the vehicle anymore after 6 cycles.
But if it's turning off after 6 cycles, is that a problem? Because I feel like most people don't want it. They usually turn it off anyway.
Yeah. The question becomes, is it a problem that needs to be fixed? Right?
Gotcha.
So that's some of the questions that we get. Oh no, I've got a light on the dash. I don't want to see warning lights on the dash.
Yeah, because we're all trained light on the dash equals bad, big trouble.
Yeah. In our case, it's not a problem that needs to be fixed. It's just the way it works. Okay. So we talked earlier that we bring the positive wire that was on the little battery, we bring it up top and we connect it to the positive on the big battery. So now they are physically connected together. So when you stop at the red light, it's not separating those batteries anymore, right? We have our accessory battery that runs your aftermarket electrical accessories, but the big battery handles cranking and it handles the running the electronics when you're stopped at the red light, okay? So it's not splitting those batteries apart. There's not a voltage difference when you're stopped. So after 6 cycles, it just says, hey, I don't think I'm able to separate these batteries. I'm going to stop trying. I'm not going to try anymore. I'm just going to turn the ESS system off. And from our point of view, we're like, hey, great. We found a way to turn off ESS without having to hit the stupid button on the dash. Right. So, a lot of people are like, oh, thanks. That was getting annoying. So thanks for turning that off for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about the guys, the Jeep guys that are running the Tazer? I know we run them in our Jeeps. Great company, great device. What about those guys?
Yeah. So if you've got the Tazer device from Z Automotive that remembers your last selection of the stop start button, if you got that in there and it turns off the ESS system every time you crank in the engine, this is a complete non-issue for you. 100% non-issue. Your ESS system is already turned off. You don't care about that. So when you pull up to the red light, the engine isn't shutting down. So you're not going to go through those 6 cycles of the engine shutting down because it's already disabled. So if that's what you want, if you prefer to leave the ESS system turned off manually, whether you're hitting the button on the dash or whether you've got a Tazer or some other method of bypassing the ESS system, whatever that case may be, if your ESS system is off, this is a complete non-issue for you. Okay. So this is only something that the people who like the ESS system are going to notice. So if you like pulling up to the red light and having the engine shut down to save a couple drops of gas, then after 6 cycles and it stops doing that, it disables the stop start system. If you like it and you want it to come back on, the next time you pull up to a red light and the vehicle does not shut off, all you gotta do is reach over there and hit the power button. Okay, put it in park, turn the engine off, turn the engine back on, put it back in drive, take off when the light turns green. Okay, so that 6 cycle limit resets itself every time you power cycle the engine manually. It'll reset and turn the ESS back on. So for those literally 1% of the customers out there that like that, that's how you deal with it.
Gotcha. All right, well, that's it for my questions, but big news in our industry is SEMA is about to start. We've been asked a lot on social media, are we going to be there? What do you think?
Yeah, not this year. Every year I say we might do a booth at SEMA next year. We haven't done one yet just because it's just not the right fit for us just yet. We might do it next year. I say that every year, but
right.
I've been to SEMA many times to walk around and visit our friends in the industry and check it out. We're going to skip it this year, but we'll probably be back next year.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. Well, that's the end. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, guys, I hope this was helpful for you. If you learned something, if this was useful to you, please do us a favor and share the show. We don't run any ads or sponsorships or anything like that on our podcast here. So the way you guys can help us out is by sharing the show with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you see the next one. Thanks for watching.